Dayton, a city defined by mediocrity. You drive through the streets to see no lively engagement, nothing. A city once prosperous, but now is struggling with hardships. The opioid crisis severely damaged the city. In theory, opioids provide a substantial benefit to the medical field. However, there are substantial detriments as well. What are opioids? You might think of heroin or other street drugs, but that doesn't paint the full picture. A Google search will tell you that they are used for pain relief and anesthesia. It really is a good question. We hear about them in the news, in the media, everywhere, but what do they really do? The pain process begins when something harmful happens to you and the pain is transferred into electrochemical signals. The signal then travels up through the spinal cord into the brain, where the signal is then perceived as pain. Opioid drugs affect how you feel. They attach to structures called opioid receptors. These receptors are found on cells in your brain, spinal cord, and other areas of your body. Opioids act on these receptors to make you feel less pain. These drugs also have different effects in other areas as well. For example, opioids act on the reward pathway in your brain. This causes the release of chemicals called dopamine that result in a happy or high feeling. This is why opioids are so addictive. Not only are they reducing pain, they are also releasing a neurochemical that is directly responsible for improving mood. Now I know what you're thinking. If opioids are so good, then what's the problem? Well, to answer that question, we have to go back to 1998.
Once you've found the right doctor and have told him or her about your pain, don't be afraid to take what they give you. Often, it will be an opioid medication. Some patients may be afraid of taking opioids because they're perceived as too strong or addictive. But that is far from actual fact. Less than 1% of patients taking opioids actually become addicted.
So many things wrong with this ad. First, they acknowledge that people may be scared, and then they dismiss it. In addition to that, they blatantly lie about the addictive properties of opioids. In the following clips, you're going to see patient testimonials advocating for OxyContin, a highly addicted opioid.
I got my life back now. Now I can enjoy every day that I live.
I've been on this new pain medication. I have not missed one day of work.
All goods, no bads, getting your life back. These are false promises and blatant manipulation. Opioid deaths are up and continuously rising. Why? It's because of money. Pharmaceutical companies have the biggest war chest out of any industry in the entire United States. In 2020 alone, they spent $300 million on lobbying. That type of money buys influence and power over regulatory bodies. A study found that in 2014 and 2015, opioid manufacturers paid hundreds of doctors in sums of 6 figures, while thousands were paid over $25,000. And worse yet, most people get addicted from prescription opioids. In 2018, more than 1 in 5 Americans have opioid prescriptions filled. There is an incentive for big pharma and doctors to prescribe more and more opioids because they get paid more and big pharma makes more. And that's what's made the opioid crisis so unique. It hurts everyone, like law enforcement trying to do their jobs, family members, friends. It's unlike any other epidemic we've ever faced. So what's next then? I had the privilege of interviewing a Dayton police officer who's a part of the opioid task force, where he provided some clarity on some questions I have in regards to what they are doing to combat the opioid epidemic in Dayton, Ohio.
We were working through some grants trying to address property crimes. Through that grant, discovered about 92% of our property crimes were being committed by people who were struggling with addiction. So through that, we did what traditionally law enforcement does, and we did more enforcement. Well, through that, what we discovered is that was a complete failure. Overall, everybody was really good at, we could run TV ads, we could put billboards up. If you need help, here's options. That that is not effective. It was the personal touch that was effective. Whether it was us, whether it was other teams, whether it was other people, it was having that conversation. What my opinion on that is, in somebody who's been doing this for 5 years, we have the ability to make decisions and go different directions, especially with criminal charges. That decriminalization, it takes away a tool that we have, right? Does everybody need to go to jail? No. But there are people that they don't care or they don't understand. And the truth is, jail is the safest place for them. Because if we leave them out in the street, chances are good they're going to probably end up dead.
So do we just outlaw all opioids and ban them? No. There is a substantial benefit to using pain relievers. They do provide a substantial benefit. It is our job as a society to figure out how to keep the good while getting rid of the bad. And it is no surprise that the culture surrounding drug taking in the United States is very significant. During my interview with Officer Olson, he did mention the bright side. A lot of people are now understanding the negative effects and addictive properties of opioids. But I do believe we are going in the right direction. And here's why this is important. Surprisingly, the same cause to the opioid epidemic is the solution. It's money. But it's being money spent in the right places, in the right ways. As you heard a little bit as Officer Olson was mentioning, spending money on nationwide programs and ads isn't very helpful because it doesn't target the right audience. That personal touch isn't obtained from a billboard on the side of the street. That personal touch isn't obtained by someone speaking to you through a camera. It's someone speaking to you face to face. Essentially, the opioid epidemic is not going to be the last epidemic. There will always be drugs that people get addicted to, and there will always be new drugs that you have to overcome. But what the Dayton police did was they didn't see the opioid epidemic as a singular drug. Rather, they're looking at combating addiction as a whole. So let's say you establish infrastructure to prevent opioid overdoses. And what happens when that next thing comes out? Then you have to start all back over again, and then you're fighting you're in that same cycle. Which was interesting was those same people that were in the opioid epidemic and those conversations were the same people in the meetings looking at how to best deal with COVID-19.